There are many different ways to generate your ability scores in Dungeons & Dragons. This is one of them. Welcome to Dungeons & Dragons and Derek. You play Dungeons & Dragons? My name is Derek, and I've noticed in the YouTube space a handful of YouTubers, D&D YouTubers, have been talking about generating ability scores. Specifically, just over the past week or so, Luke from the DM Lair and Bob over at Bob World Builder have talked about rolling 46 and then dropping the lowest, and that's how you generate your scores. Plug them in where you want. Or you just roll 3d6 down the line and they go in order. First one is strength, con, dex, or is it dex and con? Either way. There's the bingo method and a few other methods that Ted over at Nerd Immersion has talked about earlier this year as well. And while this is all interesting, there's one way to generate the stats that I've used in the past and actually find to be quite fun. It does take a little bit of time, and it's something that you kind of have to do in person. You have to be there when the player is rolling their dice. Now, Luke over at the DM Lair has mentioned a few times that if a player gets a low roll, it's not fair. Well, the thing is, the dice are the randomizer. The dice, that's fate. That's something stepping in and mucking around with your player character's actions, decisions, or generation. And I like to start this randomization, this extra wild card, the dice, at the very beginning of character creation. So what I do is I sit down with my player. I have a cardboard DM screen, something that I can move pretty easily. You'll find out why here in a second. I'll roll 4d6 behind the screen. The player will roll 4d6 or 3d6 and then 3d6. Whatever you guys and gals agree upon, that's what you do. The DM and the player roll the same amount of dice. Then the player gets to make a choice. It's like a game, because that's what we're playing, a game. The player picks what they rolled, or sight unseen, they get to pick what the DM has behind his or her screen. It's up to the DM as to whether or not they want to share what the results of their roll was if the player chooses their own die roll. So if the player gets like a total of 7, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to take what's on the other side of the screen. If they get something around 15 or higher, they may question it. The DM gets to practice his or her poker face while you go through all 6 of the ability scores and then plug them in wherever you want. This is something that I've done in the past. Like I said, it's a randomizer, and it kind of starts the game off with a little bit of excitement, game show style. For years, the words Monty Hall were used to describe earlier editions of Dungeons & Dragons, and that comes from a game show. It's a game show reference. Let's make a deal. Well, let's start that game show feeling off at the very beginning, right at player character creation, by using this method. Is it perfect? No. Is it fun? Yes. And I do agree with Luke and Bob, and I'm sure Ted feels this way too, and a number of other D&D and role-playing game YouTubers feel this way as well. Real creativity comes when you are dealing with limitations. So, if you get a character that has a 7 in a particular stat or ability, roll with it. Haha, no pun intended, but roll with it. Try to come up with a background, try to come up with a flaw or something that qualifies or explains or justifies that low roll, as well as the high roll. If you end up with a player character that's got an 18 in 4 of their different slots, and they were legitimate rolls, come up with a reason as to why this character is so near perfect. Years ago, I was playing in a 3.5 D&D game, and I had generated a cleric character. I wanted to play a cleric. Unfortunately, one of my rolls was like a 6. Now, the DM looked at me and asked, do you want to re-roll that? Well, you know what? I wanted to work with this. I decided to keep that 6 and use that as the character's constitution. Now, I know that impacted the character's overall hit points, since there's the con bonus for hit points and that sort of thing. But I played it up. Whenever there was a combat, whenever there was anything that was physically taxing, I made sure that my character, my priest, to, I forget which god it was, but it was like a moon god, the moon god of Forgotten Realms. Was it Selûne? Either way, whenever there was something physical, I made sure that that priest character, that cleric character, reacted to the fact that he had just physically exerted himself beyond his body's normal range. Other characters, no problem. My guy going up some stairs, it's going to take a little bit of time. Other characters getting involved with a fight, my guy getting involved with a fight, very, very different outcomes. And you know what? It was fun. So don't let low die rolls dampen your fun. It can be fair, it can be exciting, and sometimes even memorable. Oh, and the reason you want like a cardboard DM screen or something that you can roll behind is because when the player chooses the DM's die roll as opposed to their own, you want to be able to lift that up and reveal what the die were. No fudging here. It's kind of fun. It's a reveal. You know, like they did on those old game shows. Thanks for watching this installment of Dungeons & Dragons and Derek. I would love to hear about your character creation stories down below in the comments. Also, please give us a thumbs up, hit us subscribe, and follow the channel because I do plan on putting a lot more content out there in the near future. Thanks again for watching, and remember, when the dice say no, you gotta go.